This is my first video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Monday morning. Let's talk about the news, and the big story is the blackouts in Ukraine after the Russian missile strikes. So the latest reports are that Russia launched 11 missiles, and Ukraine states that of those 11 missiles, 9 were intercepted, while they also confirmed that 4 thermal power plants were destroyed. So the math doesn't quite add up. 11 missiles, 9 intercepted, but 4 thermal power plants taken out. Electricity and power in most of Ukraine, as well as water in most of Ukraine, was out yesterday evening. They've restored electricity to many regions. The most affected areas of Ukraine were the Harkov Oblast, as well as Dnipropetrovsk, Sumy, Poltava, and even parts of Kiev went dark yesterday evening. And the missiles were launched, from what I understand, from the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Now, this is the first, I believe this is the first strike at critical infrastructure from the Russians. Zelensky gave out a statement via social media, and he said that this was an act of terrorism and that the Russians were targeting civilian infrastructure. But I believe that this is the first time that Russians have taken out civilian infrastructure. Let me know in the comments down below, but I can't recall another time when the Russians went after the energy grid, the electricity grid, water, communications, internet, stuff like that. So this is the first. And I do remember, I'm trying to figure out which way to go here. I'll just cross through here. And I do remember that that the last time the Russians did launch one of these missile strikes, like a significant missile attack on Ukraine, was when they took out that mercenary training facility way back. Like, we're talking around March time frame, when they took out that facility close to the Polish border. I believe Yarova, that was training and housing mostly British mercenaries, and it was supposedly a hypersonic missile. The mercenaries didn't see it coming, and it wiped out something like 230 mercenaries. And when the collective West saw that, when the Europeans saw that, when the mercenaries who were thinking of actually going to Ukraine saw what happened, they all were like, we don't want any part of this. We're not going to fight Russia. The Europeans were like, let's get to the peace table. Let's get to the negotiation tables. You know, these Russians, they mean business. That was way back in March, but I can't remember from that time period in March up to today another significant Russian missile strike, like of this magnitude. Let me know in the comments down below. Maybe I'm missing something. But the big question now is this a one-off? Is this a one-off? Is this a warning for what happened in Harkov? And is it just going to be a warning? Or does this signify something different on the way? Does this signify a change in the special military operation? Are we going to see the Russians escalate? Are we going to see the Russians, as they say, take off the gloves? Are they removing the gloves, and are they now finally going to fight a war instead of a very constrained, restricted, and limited SMO? So that's one big question. And I think we'll get the answer to that maybe even this evening. We'll see if there's going to be more types of strikes on infrastructure. So that's the first big question. The next question that a lot of people are asking is, was this really related to Harkov? Was this really a retaliation or an answer to the Kharkov counteroffensive? And or was this already planned? Was this something that was already planned and in the works? I think that's an interesting question as well. So a lot of questions after yesterday's missile strike, but we'll find out the answers to that. We'll definitely find out the answers to these questions soon, I believe. But if this was a one-off, if this was just kind of like a warning, I don't know. I don't buy that. It's possible, but if this was just kind of like a warning, don't mess with us kind of thing, then I don't think people are going to be too Russians. I don't think the Russian public is going to be too happy about that. That's just my sense of things, because after what happened in Harkov, I mean, people are, Russian media, Russian citizens, just the general overall vibe that I'm getting is that people are furious. They're starting to get very, very tired of this SMO, of the special military operation. And I don't mean tired from the standpoint of, we don't want to fight this conflict. I mean tired from the standpoint of why are we fighting NATO with both of our hands tied behind our backs? And the one thing that the Kharkov offensive showed everybody in Russia, at least from what I've seen, is that NATO is playing a big role in what's going on. I mean, you get a lot of video, and I can't confirm all the videos that I've seen, but you're getting a lot of video evidence of a lot of foreign mercenary, NATO maybe, presence. I don't know, call it whatever you want. A lot of foreigners hanging around in the Kharkov Oblast. And they're taking photos, and they've got their patches with the flags there, and a lot of people are seeing this. A lot of Russians and the Russian media and the Russian talk shows, like the evening news talk shows, they're seeing this, and they're like, what the hell is going on? We're fighting NATO, but we're fighting them under the constraints of this SMO. And meanwhile, we're thinning the lines in Harkov because we don't have enough troops to hold the line in Ukraine, to hold all this territory that we have in Ukraine, and we're starting to move troops away, thinning the lines from Kharkov and moving them down to Donbass, while we have military exercises in the east in Vostok, and there's 50,000 troops there. So I mean, there's just a lot of, just in general, I think there's a lot of discussion about the strategy of this SMO. So we'll see if the significance of this of these missile strikes, and we'll see if this is a one-off, what the response will be from the Russian public. That's important. If this is not a one-off, we'll see how the Russian public reacts. If this is indeed Russia finally deciding to escalate, we'll see what the Russian public and the Russian media think about that as well. And then, of course, you have to see the reaction of Ukraine and the collective West. Just a day or two ago, Zelensky was doing a victory lap, right? He put out a statement and he said, the Russians, all we're going to do is we're going to see the back of the Russians. That's the plan. And the defense minister yesterday gave a statement saying that we're not going to negotiate with the Russians, and the only negotiation is going to be if the Russians decide to go back to pre-19, what did he say, 1991 borders or something like that. I forgot his statement, but I believe Reznikov is the defense minister's name. But he gave a statement saying we're not even going to consider negotiations with Crimea being recognized as part of Russia. We want everything. And then you're getting a lot of Western officials and EU officials. I mean, high-level officials. I mean, leaders of countries. And you're getting the Ukraine leadership saying that we're going to demilitarize Russia and we're going to de-imperialize Russia. And our goal is to break Russia apart. They're saying it. And then you have NATO troops, supposedly you have NATO forces, mulling around in Kharkov. And so all of these optics have pushed the situation to where we are right now. And we've seen, I guess, the first move from the Kremlin, of which I believe they had no choice. The Putin government, the Security Council, they had to do something because what happened in Kharkov, and I'll put a link to Alexander's video that he did yesterday evening, and he puts the pieces together very nicely to explain what happened in Izium and in Kharkov. What happened in Izium and Kharkov was a very well-planned withdrawal of Russian troops from Kharkov. From a military perspective, from a planning perspective, this was planned. Leaving Izium was planned because Izium was not serving any purpose, and the troops in that area were needed elsewhere. Once again, because Russia is fighting a conflict under very limited, with limited resources. But regardless, this was a well-planned withdrawal. Now, the New York Times article that came out the other day, they stated on the record, that U.S. intelligence is working very closely with Ukraine intelligence, with the Ukraine military. In other words, the U.S. is feeding the Ukraine military detailed intelligence, all the intelligence they need, and they're telling the Ukraine military what to do. And so we all knew this, by the way, but now you have the New York Times the other day actually putting it in writing, documenting it. In a way, the New York Times and the U.S. military, the deep state of the U.S., is bragging, because what are they saying? In this article, they're saying, okay, we know that you know that we're running this war. And we know that we're giving all the intel and all the surveillance to Ukraine, and we're telling them, where to go and where to strike. And Kherson was a disaster, but we told the Zelensky regime, look, the Russians are thinning the lines in Kharkov. They're planning to move out of there, and they have begun to move out of there slowly. But this is where you're going to hit. This is where you should go, and you don't need many troops. You need maybe 15,000 troops, and you'll be able to just, zip right in there and take territory. And it'll look good. It'll look good for the Zelensky regime. It'll mean more support, more weapons, more money. It'll look good for the EU. The EU can go to their people and say, don't protest. People in Austria that were out protesting the other day, don't protest. Don't get out on the streets. We know you're going to be poor. We know you're going to pay 5,000 euros a month in your electricity bill. We know you're going to suffer. But look, the money that we've given to Ukraine, the support, it's starting to pay off. And just stick with us for a couple more months, and we'll be in Moscow. Ursula von der Leyen will be making her way to Red Square, and she'll be running the show in Russia, right? That's the message that the EU is giving. And then we're going to have access to all of Russia's cheap energy. Once we break it apart and dissect it and tear the country apart, then we're going to plunder it. That's kind of the message that the Europeans want to give out. And the United States, well, look, they're entering midterms. They're going to have elections. Think about people like Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham. They're running up against America First candidates, right? And the America First candidates, Republicans, but still America First guys, MAGA people, they're saying the U.S. needs to pull out of these ridiculous wars. Stop sending $50 billion to Ukraine. $50 billion is better spent on the people of America. That's what a lot of the America First candidates are saying. and real progressive candidates as well. Like, I'm not talking fake progressives, like Bernie Sanders and these guys. I'm talking like real progressives. But anyway, you have a wing in the United States, both on the right and on the left, that are saying enough of these useless wars. This money is better spent on the American people. It's better spent on improving American people's lives. It's better spent on America's education system or health care or whatever. And then you have guys like Mitch McConnell or even Nancy Pelosi who are saying, okay, look, this fresh crop of politician that is trying to get in power, they're coming up with radical ideas. They want us to pull out of these military adventures. So Zelensky needs to show progress. He needs to show that all the billions that we've sent him are working, so that then we can go to the American people, and we can also go to these candidates as well and tell them, look, stop running on a platform that is calling for America to disengage from Ukraine, because Zelensky is making progress. And then we can go to the voters and say, look, we understand that you don't want America involved in these military adventures, but look, all the billions that we've given, it's making progress. So all of this serves a lot of different people in the collective West for a lot of different reasons. The Bidenomics White House, the Mitch McConnells, the Lindsey Grahams, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Ursulas, the Austrians, the Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Macron's, the protest movement, shutting down the protest movement. All of this serves many different people in the collective West. So anyway, the long story short is that the U.S. intel, they told Zelensky where to go and what to do, and he did it. And this was the Russians on their side, they had planned this withdrawal for a while. There's no doubt about that. This was not some sort of panicky, we need to get out of here ASAP, kind of thing. They were planning this. This was, for lack of a better word, I'll say strategic, just because I can't think of another word that comes to mind. But this was in the works. Maybe you could make the argument, probably rightly so, that Zelensky, the Ukraine military going into Kharkov under the advice of U.S. intel, you could make the argument that this forced the Russian military to speed up the disengagement from Kharkov. Yeah, you can make that argument, but either way, it was going to happen. But the U.S. soft power that came in afterwards, and there was actually a study in, I believe it was Adelaide University, that showed that when it comes to soft power, specifically Twitter and social media, the collective West absolutely dominates. Hashtags like, we're with Ukraine, or save Ukraine, or we support Ukraine, or even stories like Ghost of Kiev and the Siege of Kiev and the Zaporozhye Avenger, all of these things, the Goat of Kiev, all of these social media campaigns and hashtags, they're completely dominated by the collective West. Completely. Like pure domination in the social media space when it comes to Ukraine. And this was an actual study that came out just the other day. And so, they pumped up the narrative that this was some sort of Russian panic withdrawal from Harkov. And the Russians, were caught completely flat-footed. They panicked, they retreated. The Ukraine military moved in quickly and they defeated the Russians. You know what I mean? They really, the collective West really, they Hollywooded it up, if that's even a verb. They sexed it up. You know what I mean? They really, made the story much sexier than what really was going on, which was, a planned Russian withdrawal from Kharkov to a new defensive line on the Oskol River, and of course, the pushback from the Kremlin was with regards to the civilians and what was going to happen there. But you did see a lot of civilians being evacuated, some of them hastily. Some civilians refused to go, but this is a narrative. This is a terrible part of this narrative that the Kremlin is getting blasted for. but the narrative of a disorganized retreat is I believe, kind of false now. The Russians, now that they have this new defensive line, and they moved back to the defensive line, they hit the Ukraine military hard, and the reports are saying something like 2,000 Ukraine deaths in Kharkov, and I buy that because a lot of hospitals were kind of overrun all over Ukraine after this Kharkov counteroffensive. The real fighting didn't take place when Ukraine moved in there. There was very little fighting when Ukraine was moving into Balakleya and these areas. The real damage that the Ukraine military took on was from the Russians when they got back to the Oskol River and they brought in reinforcements, and then they hit the Ukrainians with artillery. That's when the real damage was done to Ukraine, and Russia suffered very little casualties with regards to what happened in Harkov. Anyway, where am I getting to with all of this? Where I'm getting to is that the Kremlin needed a response. Even though this was planned to be an organized withdrawal, and this was planned to be some sort of way to move troops around so that you could somehow reinforce the fighting in Donetsk, which is the most important part for the Russian military, which is the number one priority for the Russian military with regards to this special military operation. The PR, the optics, the communication, the superior PR and optics and communication of the collective West, their control of the social media space, all of this resulted in a real bad look for the Kremlin, in my opinion. And so something had to be done. So we get back to my first questions. Was this missile strike to knock out the power? Was this a one-off response for what happened in Harkov? Is this signaling a change in tactics, a change in strategy? Are we done with the special military operation? Are we moving into a new phase? Was this planned long ago, these missile strikes? Was this in the works? Either way, I mean, all these questions, I think, are things that we're probably going to get answers to within the next coming days, if not even this evening. We'll see if this evening you're going to see more missile strikes hitting infrastructure. We'll find out. We will find out come this evening. But no doubt about it that the optics of all of this was, I think it really boxed in the Kremlin, in my opinion. I think it pushed them to say, you know what, we've got to do something, because the people are talking. People are upset. People are asking questions. And when I mean people, I mean, citizens, media, politicians, opposition, everyone, partners, other countries that are looking at Russia and looking to partner with Russia. Everyone was asking questions. And I think the Kremlin was forced into a position where they said, well, maybe we need to rethink things a bit. Maybe that's what's taking place. Anyway, I don't think I have anything more to say about this story. We do know that we're getting a lot of information that Ukraine is now preparing for some sort of offensive once again in Kherson, in the Ugledar region, and it looks like they want to make a beeline towards Mariupol. We're getting reports, I don't know how accurate they are, but there are reports saying that the Ukraine military is moving a lot of forces into position. They're sweeping the mines that they put in place already on the front lines of Kherson and in the direction of Ugledar. And it looks like everyone in the world is awaiting some sort of move by the Ukraine military towards Kherson, towards Mariupol, towards this direction. And so, the question once again becomes, is what's going to be the Russian response? What's going to be the response? And to me, I think there's an even deeper question which Alexander answered in his video yesterday, or at least he posed. He posed to in his video yesterday, which is, does the Russian military want to fight a defensive fight? Have we shifted, because Russia is so constrained of its own decision, of its own wanting, is constrained in this special military operation? Does Russia want to continue to grind this out, but now from a defensive posture? Does it want to just sit on the defense and wait for winter to come, or wait until the EU economies collapse, or something like that? Is that something that the Kremlin wants? And that's very risky if that is indeed the plan. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just throwing questions out there for all of us to discuss and debate. No one really knows. Obviously, no one knows, except the people on the Security Council and the military officials. But is that really where after 6 months the Kremlin wants to be, where they're just kind of fighting from a defensive position, or not completely in a defensive position? Because we do, I've reported on this, we do have a lot of advancements happening in Donetsk. But in other regions, the Russians are fighting from a defensive position. Is that really what they want? And there are a lot of risks that come with that. You have a lot of what ifs. What if a breakthrough happens? What if there's more NATO soldiers or mercenaries or Collective West mercenaries or whatever than, we originally thought of? What if they have weapons that no one was expecting? You have a lot of what ifs thrown in there when you're fighting on the defensive. So anyway, let's talk about Greece and we'll wrap this video up. A lot of tension between Greece and Turkey. And Turkey sent, this happened last week. There was a lot of tension between both countries. I'm in Cyprus. I spent a lot of time in Greece, so I know what's going on, fairly well. I'm on the ground. I see the sentiment. I hear what people are talking about. I discuss things with people here. And last week we had a lot of tension between Turkey and Greece, where Erdogan even threatened Greece. He said, "We're going to come down and we're going to, hit you guys." That was pretty much what he said. And he even sent a letter to NATO, to the US, and he complained about the fact that Greece is going against various agreements, and they're building up their military presence on certain islands, which are very close to the Turkish borders. And all of these things. He put them in a letter, and he said, the escalation is coming from Greece. Well, the Mitsotakis government, the Greek government, they sent a letter just the other day. They sent a letter to NATO, to the EU, and to the United States, and they said, no, the escalation is coming from Turkey. And they're the ones that are escalating. They're constantly they're constantly flying, invading our airspace. They're the ones with the belligerent rhetoric. They're the ones that are ramping the tension up. And basically you had both sides running to mommy and daddy. That's what I say. I say mommy and daddy, the United States, NATO, Bidenopolis. They're complaining both sides are complaining to the same person, right? To the same NATO, deep state, US. And on Saturday, things kind of came to a very tense edge, because you had a Turkish vessel. Now, it wasn't a Turkish flagged vessel. The vessel wasn't flying a Turkish flag, but it was a Turkish vessel. And I've heard various reports saying this was a cargo vessel. I've heard other reports saying it was a ferry transfer. I'm not sure exactly what type of vessel this was. But anyway, Turkey is claiming that the vessel was in international waters. The Greeks say it was in Greek waters. The Greek Coast Guard, they say they ordered the vessel to stop as it was in Greek waters, and they said they're going to board the vessel. They're saying the vessel wasn't stopping, and so the Greeks say that they fired warning shots in the air. The Turkish vessel says that they fired warning shots at the vessel, and they have videos saying, look, here are the bullet holes. And we reached a point where things got very, very tense. And that's where we are. That is where we are. People are worried here. I think for the first time in a while, the Greeks and the Cypriots, we're used to tensions flaring up and then calming down, flaring up and then calming down. And when we're used to it over the many, many years, we see this happen every year or two. We see these types of things kind of heat up and then they calm down. Usually it's during, say, election cycles, whether it's an election cycle in Greece or whether it's an election cycle in Turkey, or if the U.S. is putting pressure on either Turkey or Greece. Many people think the U.S. is putting pressure on Mitsotakis, and they're telling Mitsotakis, look, ramp up the pressure on Turkey, start increasing tension with Turkey, because Turkey is thinking about breaking away from the U.S. Atlanticist structures, right? They're thinking of aligning with Russia, and they're thinking of moving away from the USD and moving outside of the collective West military-industrial complex, all these things. There are people that are saying that the U.S. is telling Mitsotakis to ramp up. There are other people who are saying, no, it's Erdogan. He's going to be in an election soon, and he's looking to ramp things up because, it's not looking so good for him in the coming elections. There is a possibility that, he may not be able to squeak out a victory. I think he will, but there's all these things going on. Anyway, people are worried, though. I'm saying that in Greece and in Cyprus, people are saying, for the first time that I've heard in a long time, people are actually saying that they believe Turkey's going to do something. They're going to make a move, perhaps on the islands near Turkey, the Greek islands near Turkey. Now, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but people are worried about it. People are starting to say this is not just rhetoric. This is not just bluffing and huffing and puffing. Things are very tense and something may happen. And Mitsotakis, when he sent his letter to the US and to NATO and the EU, he said that Greece and Turkey could turn into another Ukraine style of conflict. And of course, Mitsotakis was hinting that Greece is going to be the Ukraine and Turkey is going to be the Russia. So he was framing it as Turkey was going to be the invader and Greece was going to be the country that would have to defend. So that's where we are. I mean, the vibe of Cyprus, where I am right now, and of Greece, I would say is you're starting to see the worry creep in. You're starting to see it creep in, and there are a lot of people that are starting to actually believe that that Turkey's going to make a move. And I'm saying this from a Greek perspective, because I know that there's people listening from Turkey who are going to probably say, well, we believe that Greece is going to make a move to start things. So I understand that both sides are going to have their perspective. I'm just reporting what people are saying here because I am here. So I can accurately give you the pulse of what's going on. That's it. That is it. This has been kind of an informal kind of chat. I don't really have any notes in front of me, like any browser. I don't have my other phone with me, so I can pull up any stories from my browser, from the internet to quote, but that's basically what's happening. Let me do a clown world real quick. And this clown world has to do with Switzerland. Beautiful tree, huh? They're fixing up these gardens here. This is all new, by the way, here in Nicosia, so I like this tree. So, Switzerland, there's a poster that went viral. And supposedly it's a poster that's in Switzerland. And I'll put it up on the screen right now. And it's a woman holding a mobile phone. And basically, if I understood it correctly, the message is saying, I'm going to paraphrase from memory. The message is saying, if you know anybody who's going to break the heating laws, the new heating policy, and like heat their house over 19 degrees Celsius, then report them. Call me and call us and report them to the authorities. That's basically the poster, right? And and this went viral on the internet, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, these posters are in Switzerland, and they're basically telling citizens of Switzerland to rat out their neighbors." Because, as I reported in a video a couple of days ago, the government in Switzerland, the Swiss authorities, they're putting out legislation, putting out a policy, which is saying that which is saying that you can't heat your home or your business establishment above 19 degrees Celsius. And if you do pass the 19 degrees Celsius mark, we may do spot checks. The police may do spot checks. And if you pass that threshold, then you face a fine of up to 3,000 Swiss francs and even possible prison. And so, this freaked people out. And so you had this poster, which went viral. Supposedly it's a poster. Well, anyway, this poster, which is telling people this image, I won't say poster, this image, which supposedly is telling people to rat out their neighbors if they pass this 19 degrees Celsius thing, is supposedly a fake. It's a fake, it's a hoax. And you had authorities in Switzerland come out, and I believe it was the communications minister, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the communications minister, maybe the energy minister. Anyway, it was a minister in Switzerland who came out and said it's a hoax. We don't have any such posters in Switzerland. We haven't created such posters. The government hasn't done any of this. It's a complete hoax. So it's a hoax. It's an internet image, and actually I think the statement even said that you can reverse Google search that image, and you'll find it in like image banks, in image catalogs, that exact image and everything. So supposedly this is a complete hoax. It's just an internet image that was created and it went viral. But the interesting part about this clown world, even though this is a hoax and the poster really doesn't exist, according to authorities in Switzerland, the message is important. It shows that people are worried. The fact that this went viral shows that people are concerned. People are scared. Absolutely. People are scared. The minute you say that police are going to be knocking on your door and they're going to be doing spot checks, people are freaking out. And rightly so. Who wants to be in their home and have the police knock on their door and check their thermostat and see that, they haven't passed the 19 degrees Celsius threshold? No one wants that. And if you've passed it, you may go to prison, or you may be fined 3,000 Swiss francs, which is something like $3,000, $3,000. So people are worried and they're scared. And so the fact that this fake poster, this fake image went viral shows the very real fear that people have with the authoritarian nature of the Swiss government. People are scared, and people sense that the government in Switzerland is turning very, very 1984-ish. This is some real authoritarian, totalitarian stuff, and it's got people on the edge. So that is the clown world. I will end it there, coming to you from downtown Nicosia, Cyprus. Check out Alexander's channel. I'll put a link to his video where he talks about ETHEREUM, and he gets into a lot more detail as to what happens. It's a fantastic breakdown as to what happened in ETHEREUM. And I recommend everyone listen to that video, watch that video. Look for us on the Duran.locals.com. Look for us on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram. We are on Telegram. That is it for me here. Take care.